Welcome to the NAPI team meeting for July 20th, 2020. We'll follow our standard approach of looking through the issues that we've tagged for milestone 11. Before we do that, does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share? Okay, if not, I'm just going to open that up and share that. Milestone 11, share, okay. I think everybody should be able to see it now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start out. Transfer the NAPI tutorials to the into the OpenJS Foundation. Jim.
Yeah.
What's
Okay.
going on there?
So I have a PR in progress. The CI was working before, and now the CI is failing for reasons I'm pretty confident are not related to the website. So
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure it'd be okay to land that PR in the current state that it's in.
Let's just take a look at which one it is. It is. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place, aren't I? Node add-on.
Yeah, it's over on examples.
Examples. This one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
The Travis CI, is passing, but the GitHub action is failing, and we could look at one.
Just taking a quick sniff
Yeah,
test.
that would be great. That would be great, Michael.
Okay. What's it say at the very end? Command failed npm install. Okay, let's just see. Is this potentially, like this is failing on Windows, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that like 3.01 was not good on Windows, but maybe not. Yeah, I guess it's not obvious in there, but I don't think it would be related to that PR anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Travis CI is passing.
Okay, it's funny that there's the GitHub Actions doesn't, but Travis does.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think in terms of your question, that doesn't look related at all to your PR.
Okay.
So
okay.
I would go ahead.
Okay. So I'll land this PR when we're done with this meeting. Now, if we go to the issue here that we're looking at on milestone 11, the final piece of the puzzle is to create a GitHub Pages branch.
Right.
And if you scroll up just a little bit, Michael, I've listed the steps that I took when I was working on my repositories, where I have complete access. I can do, I can push, but I'm not clear how to make that happen like in an open source project. So I've listed the steps here.
Right.
I don't know if that's something that you could do, or
I should be able to do pretty much anything.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's just it's not there's no question on how, it's really just having the access rights to be able to do it, right?
Correct. Yeah, I list here the steps that I took when I had complete access to the repo. It's unusual in the sense that it has to be an orphan. Well, it's recommended that it be an orphan branch,
Okay.
completely disconnected from master.
Okay.
And then the other step, the step 2, is to enable the GitHub Pages within GitHub using the GitHub the GH-Pages branch.
Okay. So and
again,
that's basically just a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Again,
Okay.
if you have
Yeah.
permissions to do it, it should be straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah. I should be able to do that. So
Okay.
So create. Just trying to write myself a note here. So what is this? Create GitHub Pages branch. GH Pages branch. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. If you don't see me do that in the next day, remind me, because.
Okay. All right.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to talk about on that one?
No, I think we're good there, Michael.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so the tracking issues we've noticed are ported. Okay, I don't think there's anything new from that perspective since last week, but let's just look. Node add-on API. Let's just see how we're doing there still. It's still on the upward trend, which is good.
Yeah.
I do know we had an issue from SQLite, right? That you'd help to look at. Jim?
Yes. We could talk about that now if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't we, this seems like a decent time to do that, so.
Okay. I think we have an issue going on Node add-on API.
Right, yeah. And right, you opened the issue here. This one, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if there's, right. So this one, I mean, I think the issue they ran into is like a known limitation of any add-on, not Node add-on, Node add-ons, if I've understood correctly.
Okay.
So that like basically the VM running context, which is what they were using here, right? Was that, or was it? So this VM running context basically says, I want you to run in a context where things like the globals have their own copy.
Okay.
But there's no way for, like, it takes work for that to be passed down into add-ons, and Node just doesn't do that yet.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and I guess, Gabriel, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is a separate dimension from these context-aware add-ons that we've talked about, right?
As far as I know, no, it should be it should be part of context awareness.
Okay.
Is my understanding, but we're not really testing this with like with this VM module, like built-in module. So
Right.
maybe we should add some tests to make sure that the initializer gets called again.
Well, I think the answer is it doesn't. Like, I think the thing is that, like, it may work. So what I'd understand is definitely you and Anna have done work to make sure it works for, like,
Worker
threads,
threads.
right? Worker threads, right?
Yeah.
But that for, and I'm just reading this into, what Anna said, is that Node has never done anything like that for add-ons in the VM running in context. So that's where I was confused.
Okay.
Like, I wasn't quite sure if it was a completely separate concern. It seemed to me related, but yeah, it doesn't do that. I even played with it on one of the other issues we had, because Jest seems to use run in VM context for tests, and it was causing us problems where, because we weren't using the context that was related, we would end up throwing an error that was created in a different context from where the check was being made, and they weren't matching.
Right. Okay, I see.
And I wondered, like, that's why. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And it's basically just a matter of sort of threading it through the code. This idea that you know, we're basically tied to a global, then I guess you could say, right? Because you know, each thread gets its own global, right? But so does a context, and so we need to basically tie ourselves to the global, and then that means having separate instances of the add-on for contexts as well as threads.
Well, I think when I was looking at the code a little bit, I could see we store both the isolate and a context in the in our env.
Yes, but where do we store the env, and under what circumstances do we create a new env?
Right.
That's
So
the
we
question.
don't, right? An env, you basically get a single env. I guess like if you have a worker thread, you get your own env, right?
Yes,
But
yes,
if you
because
run in a VM context, you don't get a new env.
yes. Well, actually, the env, yeah, the env, if I remember correctly, doesn't get stored anywhere. Oh, I have to check the code, because I remember we used to have one shared env for all modules,
Right.
but we don't
Yep.
have that anymore. So let me just JS. No, it's not. It's Node API. Sorry, Node API CC. NAPI new env, I think. No, new env. No, create env. Oh, geez, what did we call it? Okay, NAPI module register. Okay, yes. Okay, so new env v8 impl new env. That's what we do for a given context. So okay, so it all starts with NAPI module register by symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And there we create a new env. So if nobody calls NAPI module register by symbol, then yeah, then that's not, then we're going to be doing things wrong.
Right, and the VM
So
context doesn't do that, so I
yeah,
guess that's my assumption.
but it should, right? Because in a VM context, you have to like re-require all your stuff, right? You have to re-require FS, re-require path, re-require everything, right?
Do you
So
like, because like I guess the requires, I mean, you don't have to today.
okay, so okay, the question is, when you run in when you run in or you do the VM running in context or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
The scope of the variables, right, that you have on the JavaScript side, you know, can you use those variables? Because if you can, then yeah, then it makes sense. Then they are somehow connected, right? And it's not a separate environment, right?
Right, like here's the
So
code right here. Like basically the require is
yeah.
done up here.
Oh, I see. So
And
you have your DB.
right, and that actually works. So functionally that works. And I think that's where Anna was
Yeah.
saying that like Node has not been aware of a different context in that sense. The DB still works. And in fact, you're not the code itself, I guess like that script, but that script is using it's using the DB, which is outside. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So that stuff translates. Okay, yeah, then we have to track down. Then it's a bug, because I mean the native add-on should behave exactly the same way as a
As
pure
regular
JavaScript.
Yeah, I think
Module.
it's just that it never has. Like it, from what I understand, it's not that an API doesn't do that and other add-ons do. It's just that add-ons never have. So at least that's, not, but I think it is something that is like you said, again, it's unexpected. And like we're seeing problems with Jest. There was another problem issue where I investigated, found it to be the same. I was wondering if it was
so
just sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so this seems to be the root cause is this distinction between native and JavaScript add-ons in the context of this VM
Right.
module.
I had wondered if it was like, when I looked at the code, we have both the isolate and the context. And in some places we use this env isolate get current context, and others we use env context. I was wondering if we were getting caught by like this env context caching something, but it seems like Anna said, and of course it was correct, that get current context returns the same value anyway.
Right.
And I think those places where we use env isolate get current context are just like historical. We didn't, env context should be doing that internally if it needs to be anyway. So I'll probably submit a PR to fix that up. But fundamentally, it's that we've hooked up the context awareness for threads, but not for this particular case, which is another case where you can have.
But this is actually this is actually the exact opposite of what you want for threads. Here, you do not want a new instance. In fact, you want the context to work with existing values, right? Whereas when you're on a new thread, you want to create a new instance of the add-on on purpose, right?
Right. It's kind of like, I guess my understanding is that there might be like a stack of contexts. Because we have the isolate in the context, so it could be like for a given isolate you can have multiple contexts.
Yes.
And so like for a worker thread we have a whole new isolate, and then everything works because we create a new env with the new isolate, and when we call you're using that new env. So that makes sense. So this seems actually, if anything, a little different in that it's like we're the same isolate, but the effective context is different.
Yes, and my understanding is that each context gets its own global object.
Right, and that's effectively what we're seeing, is that the global and the copies of things on it they just don't match. Like in the case of the one that Nicola and I were looking at earlier, like it was telling us this is not it's type of it was a particular type of exception.
Yeah.
It says no, this doesn't match, even though when you printed it out, it told you it was exactly that, and it's because it is the different context version of that.
Yeah.
Looking at the V8 code though, there's a lot of those don't even take a context though, so I'm not quite sure how that all works.
Yeah. So basically. The built-ins, the JavaScript built-ins, if they are reinstantiated for each context, then you would get this problem even without native add-ons, right? So like, for example, let me think about this. Like if you have let's say you create a new error object, and then you evaluate VM running new context, that error object, which is in your scope, because we know scope gets sent into the context, that error object instance of error, would you get false for that? Right?
But I think
you created the error object in one context.
Right, but I think the problem is that what's happening is even within that VM running context, the JavaScript code actually respects the new globals. So like if you say, if you said new exception, and then you said, is this an instance of that exception? It'll say yes, because it's all using the new context, the globals for that new context. However, when you call a native method, it actually uses the outer one, because that's the one that was created when you required it.
Right.
And therefore, if you have the mix,
we store the context.
Right.
Because we store the context. And so, okay, I see. So when you're calling instance of, you should be calling it on the inner context. So you shouldn't be retrieving the context from whatever you stored. But then env isolate get current context is the correct way to do things, rather than env context.
But that doesn't seem to, that was my question. That's what I was wondering. But Anna was like, no, it doesn't actually do that.
So then,
and I checked it, and it didn't seem to do that.
Right. But then how do we retrieve the relevant context? I mean, if V8 doesn't give it to us, if env isolate get current context doesn't give you the current context, then
yeah, that's what I don't know.
We're out of options.
Yeah,
So
it's something like it might be something like Node needs to do something to support that, or
yeah.
that was my question. But yeah, for that other one, I tried actually. Like I'm like, really, that sounds like it should be doing it, but when you I unless I did it wrong, which is always possible, I hacked the code so that it says, did env isolate get current context give me exactly the same thing as env context? And the answer was yes. And even in the
Wait
case,
a minute.
sure, I was doing the case where
Let me see that. You see that code again? Can you please scroll up to the JavaScript code?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting. How is it even able to see that DB? Because this didn't work for me. Let me show you what I did. I don't know. Can I paste this somewhere? Let me do a gist quickly. Just github.com. Come on, gist. Okay.
See, this was, yeah, it was
Okay,
type
so
error.
let me paste this in for everybody. Where is the chat? Here is the chat. There you go. So this is what I ran just now in the like the REPL.
Did you try a require?
Of
well, because this code, where was it?
No, it's just I don't see like the variable isn't in the scope after all. Is what I'm trying to is what it seems to be doing in the REPL. Maybe if it's inside a file it behaves differently, but so yeah, so that DB, as far as I can tell, doesn't exist. It would be.
But here it's
octagon.
no, it's a new.
Oh, look at that. Oh, I see. Okay. Never mind. DB console. Okay, that's what they did. Okay, yeah, that's different. Okay, I understand. And that will work then. Okay, so that's the beginnings of a test right there. That is the beginnings.
Other one
of
is a case where, like in the case of this one.
Oh, but look at that.
Creates the issue.
Whoa. Okay, let me. Okay, all right. Let me repaste this or update the. Okay. Oh boy. I think I caught it red-handed. I should say mwahahaha. All right, edit. Come on. All right, so here we go. Update public gist. Okay, so then please refresh, or there should be like a series of things. Oh yeah, you did. So look at that. VM running new context. The last three lines there. X instance of error X, right? So what they did in the SQLite example is that the second parameter to run a new context basically tells you what properties the global object shall have in addition to the normal properties that it has, right? And so basically X, you're passing the variable X into this new context in this case, right? And X is an instance of error created in the outside context. And when you do X instance of error and you run that in a new context, you get false. So this is pure JavaScript right here, and it's still false. So why are we expecting that it wouldn't be false for native add-ons? Like if you create it in the context in which you create it is the context in which instance of is true, nowhere else. I mean,
right. So okay. So what you're saying is that the DB, but they're not doing. I mean, in their case, let's see. So let's go back to the code that they've got here. I don't think they're checking DB specifically, right? They're trying to check if something is a date or not.
Yeah.
Right, like the new date is created here, I guess.
Yeah, outside.
And then I see, so then this DB console.
Oh, well, actually, okay, so, all right, so they say db.each select new date console log. Okay. Okay. And then in there, inside the context, they also create a new date.
I think it's like this new date, which is
Inside the context.
right, because we're calling this DB, like this each method, I think is the native method, right?
Yeah.
And so it's got a date which was created in the context, which is failing
Yep.
to match what the native method uses.
What the native method uses, I don't understand that.
Well, the native, like I think the native, this new date has used a constructor which is within that context, right?
Yes.
But this each method, which is a native method,
Oh, I
is not
see.
using the globals from that context. It's using the globals from when the add-on was
Yes.
required.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. It's using the globals from where it was required. Right. So when it
So
gets
somehow
called in a new,
yeah,
yes,
the native, that the add-on doesn't know that it's running in a new context.
that's right. That's right. Yes, and you can pass it into the new context. Okay, I see. So okay, so what this means is our function callback, where we translate the way V8 calls into native to the way we call into native. That's
Right.
where we have to get the new context. I
Right. Although
think.
it's like, yeah, somehow there needs to be, we'll have to figure out, oh, and I should
All right,
promote.
let me quickly check the code. This should be in JS native API. Nedit node src JS native API to be
Sorry,
ACC.
Michael.
Yeah, I'm just looking for where the participants are now.
Yeah.
Where's my participants link? Here we go. Okay, so. Oh, and did Jim drop out? And I need to promote him too. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So okay. So when we call into the module, we simply grab the environment from whatever, from the data that was passed in. But before we call into the module, we may want to update the context. Okay, so then let me look at how we get the context. All right, so yeah, all right, okay, I should probably do this offline.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
okay.
worth thinking about, because it's like, I guess, it's not that it's specific to note to NAPI modules, but it is an interesting thing in that we've this other error, basically seems to be related as well, in that Jest was basically failing because it's trying to compare errors, and running into the same problem. And in fact, I could then boil it down to this code right here that says, if you have an add-on that simply throws an exception, if you do it in JavaScript, all seems okay. Whereas if you actually run it in a new context, then you get the same error that they were seeing before, which is like, yeah, this doesn't match, which makes sense because you're again in the exception was thrown in one context and created, but then checked in a different one.
Yeah. But I mean, but that's okay. I mean, that's actually okay, because if it was thrown in one context, well, in so you're saying this gives you false?
Yes.
Like this gives you a different, but why? Because if the native method running in a new context gives you another type of error, that means it's using the inside context.
Yeah, so there's some, it's the exact, like, is this the opposite problem?
Yeah, because right, like,
Yeah.
So if you're saying that the add-on erroneously stores the outside context and uses it even when running in the inside context, right? Then
Yeah.
the console log here should give you true, the second one.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
But it doesn't.
No, like, yes, it doesn't give you the, well, it gives you, which one gives you one says, this one will say it's true. This one says it's false.
That's what
but it shouldn't, right?
Correct. I would expect it should not, but
You'd expect it to be the opposite.
Correct.
Yeah, because I mean, because there is an error, it should also give you true, right? So it should give you true because of the bug, not because it was fixed
I see
anyway.
what you're saying, although, yeah, no, it's related. I wonder if it's something like somehow on the translation out it does something, but no. This is yeah. Although, like, the actual error that they have, like the thing that they had actually does a bunch more code. Like,
Well,
I suspect that in the case of what Jest is doing, that like they're running a whole bunch of code in. So maybe my test case is wrong. Like, maybe this is doing the right thing. No, yeah. Anyway, you're right. Like, if it's broken, why is it not? It doesn't seem to make sense now that we think about it.
Either that, or our implementation is inconsistent, and sometimes it uses the right scope, sometimes it uses the wrong scope. So, for example, creating an error happens to use the correct scope, but other parts, like what the SQLite is doing with an API, is using the wrong scope or context.
Yeah, except that, like, the problem that was reported was that Jest was having problems, right?
Right.
Whereas, like when under Jest, we can see that it's trying to compare something which is looks like a type error but isn't a type error. So it's the same problem as we saw before, in that it was like it's returning false because they're not the same thing. Now, maybe I've read too much more. Maybe I made a mistake in terms of saying it's related to VM context.
So, okay, but where is the comparison being made? In the context, or like in the VM context, or in the regular context?
That I don't know. Like, we didn't find the code in Jest necessarily. I just said, oh, well, this looks very familiar. And so then I wrote this test case to say, okay, what's going on here? And maybe I've just mistakenly linked them together, but it seems like that's very likely that Jest is using something like VM context, and I could see that.
Oh, actually, the way to change this test might be to say VM running new context, try add-on .rvar catch something, and then something instance of type error. So put all that in the double quotes. Right.
I think I might have tried that, but I'll try that again. I think I might have tried that too, but
yeah. So that would make sense, because then if there is a bug, and we are using the wrong context, then that will be false inside the VM context.
Right. Whereas this we expect to be false anyway. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Well, actually, no. We expect this to be true, right? Because, I mean, if the situation is what we think it is, which is that we're using the context given at instantiation time, then comparing, even though the error was created inside the VM context, when you check that same error outside the VM context, it should be true, right? Because, well, it was created using the outside context, and you're comparing it using the outside context. That should be true. But if you're comparing it inside the context, then it should be false because we're using the wrong context. If this is not the case, then the problem is somewhere else.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll try that. Yeah. So maybe I've got that. Okay. I need to try. Yeah. I'd some. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll update the test case again because yeah, this one. But because I guess then it's like, it's interesting that you can't. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that one's an interesting one, and a few related. I think I'm guessing these are still related, although maybe I'm not as sure anymore. Okay, so let's go back to the list we were looking at. Where are we? Okay. Oh, oops, sorry. Okay. So back on to Node Confu workshop proposal.
Yeah, Michael, I've not heard back from the conference.
Okay.
The deadline is a week from today.
Okay.
So I think I think at this point I'd like to just put it in and see what happens.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Let's do that.
Okay. And once again, I'd like to open it up again to Lucas and to Kevin, if you would like to be part of the team that works one-on-one with people having questions about native add-ons.
I haven't actually had any time to think about it.
Okay. All right.
Now let me actually think about it and get back to you.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay. It's due. It's I don't like to leave things to the very last minute, Kevin. And
yeah. Okay.
It's due a week from today, so just let me know. I'll drop you an email.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll get that in this week. I'll get that in before the deadline.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Enable debug testing for add-ons. I don't think we've done anything on that. Burn down list of issues raised by module owners. So I think this one, there is an interesting one to talk about as well, which is this issue, this pull request, this one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any. So this one, like, I should have asked for tests on the last PR, and we ended up breaking Windows. This time, I think we really want some tests before we landed, just to make sure that we can run across our CI platforms. I think Lavelle's certainly been working on things, like he was asking about our AppVeyor test. So it sounds like he's working on it. But my take is we should probably do a release like a 302 that backs out the original fix if we don't have it by the end of the week. Does that make sense to everybody?
So we need to remove the last fix? or
Yeah. It would be like if this is ready in the next few days, then I think we just land this because it backs that out and then provides a different option. But I don't think we want that to hang out too long, right? So if it doesn't look like this is going to be ready by the end of the week, we should probably just remove that other commit and do a 302. Is what I was thinking anyway. Does that make sense to you too, Nicola?
Yeah, it makes sense. I was thinking if we can only set the latest version on npm to 3.0.0.
Right, that's a great idea. I was wondering if we could do something like that as well. Is that I think we should do that immediately if we can.
Yeah, I can do just after the meeting or now.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that helps a lot so that people won't get 301, right?
Yeah. So the latest is the 3.0.0, and when we are ready, we can push this new update.
Okay. And so the only way somebody would get 301 is if they specifically put in 301, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that let's do that right away because we've already had a few people report issues, and even like our testing, I wouldn't be surprised if I guess the question is, why isn't our internal testing failing? I guess we don't have a test that tests this, do we?
I don't know why.
Yeah, like maybe I stable, let's see. Oh, well, maybe it is now. That was, well, 17th was 3 days ago, so this is.
Michael, could you share the?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm looking at the wrong screen there. Yeah, I was just looking at the CI. But like, if we look here, it's actually. Let's go back. So if I look at, so it did fail the last run, but up until, I don't know why it didn't run the 18th and 19th. But this was there like since last Monday, so it's still been running and testing okay. But I think it must be, yeah. So I mean
Yeah, last Monday all worked good, and yeah, I pushed the release.
So it must have been broken. It must be broken in some configuration that we're not testing yet. And I thought the answer was that had broken all of Windows, but it looks like it can't be quite that.
Yeah.
Do we actually use include-dir in our testing?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
It's in where is it? Common GP.
Okay, so
it's in a root directory, common GP.
Okay, so it's not quite as clear, but I still think it's good that we set the current to 3.0, because if we're going to back out that other change, we don't want anybody to depend on it. And we did get a few reports of breakage, so something was broken. I guess I just don't quite understand exactly what yet, right this second.
Okay, what I understood is that if you now the patch on that we made on 3.0.1. If you are on Windows, using the on include underscore dirs, generate errors, and you should remove the and the include dirs is rendered will not be rendered as a list but as an item, and it will become to work. And the problem with the space on the folder name is related only on Unix system, because it worked good on Windows, even if before this last patch. Yeah.
So in this case, like, we broke some cases of Windows, but not all.
Yeah.
So like, obviously not the ones that are in our tests.
Yeah.
So we need a test which tests, we need some tests that tests like the spaces and this other case that we just broke, so that we know that that everything's working across all the platforms with the new fix.
Yeah, I agree. And we can comment on the podcast, or maybe we can add ourselves.
Sure, yeah, if you have time to look at adding some tests to his PR, that would probably be helpful.
Okay, so I will wait 1-2 days, and if I will not see any activity, I will push some tests.
Sounds good. And yeah, and if you can set the current to 3.0, that sounds like, yeah, we should do that
okay.
right away, and that way people won't get it, and that all sounds good. Okay, thanks. Yep, thanks for all your help on that one. Let's see, I think that was the main one that was sticking out in my mind. I don't know if people have other ones that they're have in mind. Any issues? We have a few new ones. So this one we talked about already. This one we think is related to this one. This one is related. I guess this is a question on how to create an object wrap. So, but anyway, probably it's just a question. So somebody has time to look at that.
This might explain what I've been seeing.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like it is quite likely that, say, that example uses the case where we should have a test. We do have testing here. That's what I was thinking, is that one, that test is probably related to that same problem. GitHub CI, there we go. So yeah, so that's almost certainly related to that as well. So I think that's on the Node add-on side, unless anybody else has something that doesn't. On the Node side, let's look for issues. An API. I guess the NAPI benchmark is. Okay, well, it sounds like it's being pursued anyway. Oops, where are we?
Oh,
There's a question about implementing something like yield. I think there was a ongoing discussion there.
no.
This one. I guess there's nothing really new since just looking to see if there's anything new. Actually, nothing, none of those other, that one was the only one. Pull requests. And what was this one? This is, sorry. Okay, so that's just doc one, I think, which is probably fine. So Gabriel, you opened a fairly recent one. This one, I guess there's not too much to discuss. It's moving forward.
Yeah, I think I'm stuck on that problem with the that you just opened with the benchmark things, because it's breaking the CI for this PR, and
Okay.
yeah, I thought I had done something, but I don't think I did, because this is something else. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, it's moving forward. It's gonna have some implications for Node add-on API, because the way we test for the effects of GCing will have to change. We're gonna have to use the same approach as core, which is basically to keep GCing in an idle loop until you see the desired change in state, and if you don't, then the test fails. If you don't see it after like 10 iterations or whatever.
Right.
So
okay, but you don't
right
want
now,
this to land until we've changed the Node add-on API side, do we? Because then all the tests are going to fall over. It sounds like.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things broken right now, so it's kind of hard to figure out which fix to land first. Because in core we got the benchmark thing, and then in Node add-on API we're still waiting on that what is that called, the handle scope thing, right? Your fix for the handle scope has to be released in order for us to be able to test some of the PRs in Node add-on API, and then this is another change that's sort of coming, and I'm trying to figure out if we update the GCing now, that should be okay if
that
we
should
do
still
that.
work, right? Like it should be making the test more tolerant of GC behavior, not less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's
I
what
was
we
just
need.
more like I wouldn't want this to land until we've made the changes in Node add-on API.
Well, you wouldn't want it to be released, but yeah, once this lands, we're in a race to get there before the first release. Yeah.
Well, but we do nightly testing. So like if this lands,
oh, I see. So
basically
then
that job's going to go red on master.
Yes, true. Okay, so then, all right. So then I guess I will take the opportunity that the breaking benchmarks have given me
right.
to actually fix or update the stuff in Node add-on API.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll do that idle loop thing. You know, the thing is like this this comment stuff that we use in core tests, a lot of that would be useful in Node on API as well. And so we're starting to replicate some of that. Like in the long run, that might be a good idea to factor that out somehow, but that's just
Right.
That's pretty vague. Because they are very good utilities. Like
Right.
things like must call, that kind of thing is pretty useful.
We could yeah, they could go into another module, right? Like
yeah, but
API,
I mean that
Node
has big
add-on API
implications.
test utilities or something.
Yeah. But I mean, if we wanted to share with core, then that would be a pretty big implication, because we'd have to have another one of those, like deps kind of includes, where it just imports the whole thing wholesale and stores it in the repo, and then we update it occasionally, like we do with V8. Only
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that would be definitely more. Yes, you're right. That would definitely be more.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen, but anyway, for now we can just keep copying the stuff that we need in Node on API.
Right. Okay. I'm just going to flip back because we're just at 1 minute, I think. Right here we were like, okay, this one simple. I guess this one, the set immediate. Well, yeah, I think I read why. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think the fact that the GC has changed so much, and the GC itself has become asynchronous. I think that's what is precipitating all these changes, right?
Okay, so this is not something we changed. It's just that like the V8 GC is starting to, like, we were just getting lucky, which I was surprised before that the test just always worked, right?
Well, it was. Well, I mean, it was pretty consistent. I don't think it was luck. That's just how the GC worked before. But now they've quote unquote unhinged it, and so and if it can run without a stack that's ready to execute JavaScript, if now there is such a possibility and it occurs frequently, then we have to defer using set immediate to ensure that we have a stack capable of running JavaScript. It's as simple as that. And then the implication of that is that all our tests now must assume that GC is asynchronous as opposed to synchronous. And so that's why the GC until, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And I meant more that all our GC stuff has to be like async await now.
Right.
Because of that.
Yeah, it was more the part I was talking about is that like there was never any guarantee that like a GC would happen, having called it once. It may have been it may have been a reality that it did, but they would never have said that.
Yes. Formally, there was no guarantee ever. Yes. Yes, that's true.
Right, but now we need.
And now we're finally living with that.
Right, and they actually changed it enough though that we actually have to change our internal code to even call the finalizers in a different way. So.
Yeah. And I mean, set immediate guarantees that it's no longer synchronous. So.
Right.
So then there is no chance that you can just call global GC and then check for effects right away.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Is there any? Since we're over, I think nothing else new. Is there anything else people want to talk about before we close out for today?
Michael, I had a couple things.
Yep. Okay.
It occurred to me on the conference workshop. I was just assuming that Nicola and Gabriel and Michael were participating. Is that correct?
Good for me.
Yeah, if at all possible, I will be there and helping out.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. And then the other thing is I'm going on vacation starting tomorrow for about until the middle of next week. So I will not be on the call next week.
Okay, well, have a great vacation.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? If not, everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to everybody except for Jim next week, and we'll talk to you the week after. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, although I might be on vacation, so who knows? I think I'm trying to remember. It's I'm not away next week. Yeah, no, I'm on vacation the week you're back. But anyway, so I'll see you in a little bit.
All right.
Well, then
Okay.
I will talk to you the week afterwards.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay.
All right, talk to y'all later.
See everybody later.
All right.
Bye.
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 Bye.